This is Hebrew literary scholar Robert Alter's commentary on the mysterious Bridegroom of the Blood passage from Exodus chapter 4. This elliptic story is the most enigmatic episode in all of Exodus. It seems unlikely that we will ever resolve the enigmas it poses, but it nevertheless plays a pivotal role in the larger narrative, and it is worth pondering why such a haunting and bewildering story should have been introduced at this juncture. There is something starkly archaic about the whole episode. Yahweh here is not a voice from an incandescent bush announcing that this is holy ground, but an uncanny silent stranger who encounters Moses, like the mysterious stranger who confronts Jacob at the Jabbok ford in the dark of night. The Hebrew for place of encampment is phonetically linked to Lila, night. One may infer that both the deity here and the rite of circumcision carried out by Zipporah belong to an archaic and perhaps even pre-monotheistic stratum of Hebrew culture, though both are brought into telling alignment with the story that follows. The potently anthropomorphic and mythic character of the episode generates a crabbed style, as though the writer were afraid to spell out its real content, and thus even the reference of pronominal forms are ambiguous. Traditional Jewish commentators seek to naturalize the story to a more normative monotheism by claiming that Moses has neglected the commandment to circumcise his son, and that is why Yahweh threatens his life. What seems more plausible is that Zipporah's act reflects an older rationale for circumcision among the West Semitic peoples than the covenantal one enunciated in Genesis 17. Here, circumcision serves as an apotropaic device to ward off the hostility of a dangerous deity by offering him a bloody scrap of the son's flesh, a kind of symbolic synecdoche of human sacrifice. The circumciser, moreover, is the mother, not the father, as enjoined in Genesis. The story is an archaic cousin of the repeated biblical stories of life-threatening trial in the wilderness, and as modern critics have often noted, it corresponds to the folktale pattern of a perilous rite of passage that the hero must undergo before embarking on his mission proper. The more domesticated God of verse 19 has just assured Moses that he can return to Egypt, for all the men who sought your life are dead. Then, the fierce, uncanny Yahweh of this episode promptly seeks to kill Moses. The same verb, seek. Just as in the previous verse, he had promised to kill Pharaoh's firstborn. Here, the more judicial verb himit, to put to death, is used instead of the blunt harag, kill. The ambiguity of the reference has led some commentators to see the son as the object of this lethal intention, though that seems unlikely because the unspecified object of the first verb encountered is almost certainly Moses. Confusions then multiply in the nocturnal murk of the language. Whose feet are touched with the bloody foreskin? Perhaps Moses's, but it could be the boy's, or even Yahweh's. The scholarly claim, moreover, that feet is a euphemism for the genitals cannot be dismissed. There are again 3 male candidates in the scene for the obscure epithet Bridegroom of Blood, though Moses strikes me as the most probable. William H.C. Propp correctly recognizes that the plural form for blood used here, damim, generally means bloodshed or violence, though in the archaic language of this text, it may merely reflect intensification or poetic heightening. He proposes that the deity assaults Moses because he still bears the blood guilt for the involuntary act of manslaughter he has committed, and it is for this that the circumcision must serve as expiation. All this may leave us in a dark thicket of bewildering possibilities, yet the story is strikingly apt as a tonal and motivic introduction to the Exodus narrative. The deity that appears here on the threshold of the return to Egypt is dark and dangerous, a potential killer of father or son. Blood, in the same double function it will serve in the plague's narrative, is set starkly in the foreground, the blood of violent death, and blood is the apotropaic stuff that wards off death. The bloody foreskin of the son will be matched in the 10th plague by the blood smeared on the lintel to ward off the epidemic of death visiting the firstborn sons. With this troubling mythic encounter, we are ready for the descent into Egypt.